All right, I'm here with Jake Little, Fort Worth office of Service First Mortgage. And Jake, you've been kind of the talk of the town a little bit. I've heard your name pop up with some of the managers, a couple loan officers. You've been doing great, and I want to jump on here and just kind of have you share your story real quick. Tell us what you're up to. When I look at your numbers, just from last year, you got 176 leads. You funded 27 loans. You did right at $10 million in production. And I think it was your first year. Is that right?
Yeah. So
Yep.
2022 was really my first year. New to the business, came from an engineering background, so new to the mortgage business and new to Service First as well. So
I think that's a great year. Like, that's an awesome start. What did you do during that year to generate those leads and have that kind of success?
yeah, well, I'm kind of a ready, fire, aim type. So maybe that's not a good thing, but whenever I showed up, I knew, at the end of the day, my goal was to get loans closed and funded, from the day I started. And so the way for me to achieve that goal was to make as many meaningful, valuable relationships as I could. And so I would come in every day and I have a whiteboard over here on the wall, and I would just write 5 X's on the whiteboard, and I would just start literally just Google realtors in Fort Worth and just started calling people until I had gotten 5 in-person appointments here in the Fort Worth area. And so when I would nail something down, I would go over there and erase an X off the whiteboard. And that always felt really good. And so I did that every day for, 8 or 9 months right out of the gate. And I think that kind of springboarded me into building a reputation and a brand here in the Fort Worth area.
How many calls did you have to make, do you think, to get those appointments?
That's a great question. For me, making calls was not a metric that tied to what my goal was. My goal, like I said, was to help serve as many families as possible. Well, I can make 1,000 calls a day, and if they're not meaningful phone calls that don't build a relationship with a partner or with a client, then there was no, that call to me didn't count. So I never really was big on tracking how many times I picked up the phone. I wanted to track what I knew was going to matter, and that was those in-person meetings that I was going to have with somebody. So some days it would be 5 calls, right? If you got 5 out of
Yep.
5, set up those 5 appointments, then great. Some days, and a lot of days, most days, I would call all day. This is kind of a secret of mine, and I don't know, maybe it's not a secret, but I've shared this before. The way that I did it was I found a few brokerages that I wanted to focus on, and started with the youngest people that didn't know anybody, the newest people that didn't know anybody. And once I knew them, I would call the next newest person. And before I knew it, I'd be talking to the broker of the #1 real estate company in Fort Worth. And to him, it felt like I knew everybody on his team, and I was so ingrained with them all just because I had started at the bottom. And I really did build that relationship. And so now it kind of has a snowball effect where everybody's like, well, I've been using Jake now. And I know he's using Jake too. And she's using Jake. And, they've got construction loans and land loans. And so it definitely had a snowball element to it. Once it started working, it started working.